Hello, adventurers. Another Friday, another RPG horror stories. I'm still fired up from Greg's story last week.
Yeah.
And if you missed it, you should go check that out too. I've got Mr. Greg Genovas in front of me.
First,
Ms. Josie Diaz.
You.
And Jim Crocker.
Hey.
Listed off in the order that they joined the Zencaster room. You want higher billing? Show up. So I believe we are doing Josie's story today. Josie, got a story?
Yes, I do. And it is awful.
If it wasn't, we wouldn't be recording it.
It's tagged as not safe for work. It does have, it's not like there's no gore or anything. It's definitely uncomfortable, but it's not too bad.
I'm livid already.
But if you don't like frat guys propositioning you in text outside of the game, I would suggest you skip this one. That being said, this is posted by Shy Devil D, and it's called Frat Guy Acts Inappropriately, in-game and in real life. This is their first post on Reddit, and also English is their second language. I had no trouble reading it. Shy Devil D, if you're here, if for whatever reason you're listening to this podcast, you did a great job.
So quick side note on that. Anytime anyone ever says, sorry, my English isn't great, they always have perfect English.
I know.
Every single time someone on Reddit says that.
It's
like, oh, sorry for my English.
Better than mine.
I'm on mobile and English is my first language. And then they have like correct pronunciation or
it's correct capitalized with, punctuation marks and stuff.
Punctuation
like that.
is what I meant to say, not pronunciation. That part's on me.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
They know there. They know two.
Read red, all of that. So for some context, I am a small gay guy with an edgy goth style with long black hair and feminine features, very introverted and suffer from social anxiety.
Did we start the story yet?
My hair isn't long anymore. Reading this, the beginning, I was just like, oh my god, it's my immortal.
Greg's already DMing him.
I also walk with a slight limp due to a horse riding accident when I was 13. I played an androgynous changeling rogue, a spy for a noble house to seek to gain influence in the city. My friend, Fighter, is in our uni's wrestling team and a pretty big, well-built guy. His frat brother, Barbarian, the antagonist of this, is also on the wrestling team, but not quite as big as Fighter. DM is a classic nerd and Barbarian's friend in real life. Druid and Warlock were acquaintances of DM and not very relevant to the story. Fighter and I have been friends since high school. He was very protective of me. I was always introverted and shy, where he was always extroverted and charismatic. Classic extrovert adopting an introvert scenario, which I love. I was always talking about wanting to play D&D, but I never got the courage to join a game with strangers. We both eventually ended up in the same university. Fighter stayed in a frat house and I was in a dorm a few blocks away, so we still got to hang out a lot. Fighter one day told me that one of his frat brothers, the Barbarian, has a friend, DM, who is looking for people to play D&D, and convinced me to join by saying he would play as well. I've always been a fan of D&D. From the PC games to YouTube content and Critical Role, I nor Fighter have actually ever played D&D. The DM wanted to run Dragon Heist, which is something I'm unfamiliar with. We all decided on getting together at DM's dorm common area once a week. Session 0 came, and nervously I met the DM, Druid, and Warlock, who all lived in the same dorm. They seemed nice and were just as socially awkward, so I felt a little bit more at ease. Finally, Fighter and Barbarian arrived, and this is where the first incident occurred. Barbarian and I have never met before, and the first words he says to me are, "Damn, who's the hot chick?" followed by, "Oh fuck, it's your buddy," towards Fighter, laughing as if it were the best joke ever. Everyone else also laughed, and I was just awkwardly smiling, feeling like he was mocking me more than making a joke. Session 0 went by, and we even had a small job of cleaning out some rats out of a basement to give us a feel for RP in a battle. Barbarian was a typical frat guy, making lots of crass jokes and trying to hit on every female NPC, but in general we all had fun. Game 1 came, but Fighter had to help his sister move and couldn't make it. The DM said it's no problem, and that his character will just be introduced to the party in the next session. Druid, Warlock, and Barbarian all knew each other in-game, and had been in the same tavern as my rogue. I was transformed into a female human and working as a barmaid to spy on a merchant who frequently visited the tavern. Barbarian decided to flirt with and grope my rogue while I was serving their table. Mind you, This was supposed to be where all our characters meet for the first time. I playfully shrug off his advance as not to blow my cover. I finally spot my target, and eventually with some deception and seduction rolls, I get cozy with the merchant. Barbarian, seeing this, decided the merchant was touching his claim, as he put it. He got up and stormed over to where the merchant was and pulled my rogue into his arms. I tried to resist, but obviously I failed at a strength check against a barbarian. The merchant was about to say something when Barbarian abruptly swung his axe and killed the merchant where he sat. The tavern burst into chaos. The tavern keeper and a few adventurers surrounded Barbarian. Me knowing that if this goes bad, it would derail our adventure before it even started, convinced the mob that the Barbarian saved me from the merchant's unwanted advances and groping. In hindsight, I should have just let the mob have him. The tavern keeper tells the Barbarian, "Count yourself lucky this girl has a silver tongue," to which he replied, "Oh, she's going to be putting that tongue to use later tonight," winking at me.
Ugh.
This made me extremely uncomfortable. The session lasted for 2 hours with mostly RP, where I reveal my androgynous true form to the party. The Barbarian was shocked, but then with a weird smirk said, "Oh well, a hole is a hole."
Ugh.
The session ended, and later that night I got a message from Barbarian. I was serious about putting that tongue to use. Me, being a shy, anxious person, replied with "LOL funny," and I didn't hear anything back. In the coming days, I chatted with Fighter, and he said everyone loved the first session. He's looking forward to playing with us. But I told him that I felt uneasy and don't think I'd be returning to the game. Fighter asked why, but I just said it was too many people, not wanting to cause trouble. He convinced me to give it another shot. Session 2 came and we all got together around 7 p.m. I sat next to Fighter, and on the other side of him sat Barbarian. We were setting up and getting ready to play when out of nowhere, in real life, Barbarian leans forward looking at me and says, "You know my offer still stands. I know it must be hard for you getting any, being disabled and all." My mouth fell open.
Yikes.
Warlock and Druid looked at us wide-eyed. Fighter, heavily frowning, replied with a "what the fuck?" At this point, I had enough, and I told Fighter about all the inappropriate stuff Barbarian did in-game last session, and the message he sent me after. Fighter asked the Barbarian, "Dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Rogue is my best friend. Where do you come off talking to him like that?" Barbarian replied, "Aw, come on, bro. You know I'd be doing him a favor." I saw Fighter, being the large, muscular guy that he is, slap the living daylights out of Barbarian.
Fuck yeah.
Barbarian fell off his seat and sat on the floor, dazed and confused. At this point, my anxiety reached a boiling point, and I just got up, leaving all my stuff there, and booked it back to my dorm. Later that night, I heard a soft knock on my door. I opened it, and Fighter stepped in, giving me a huge hug, telling me how sorry he is. "I'm so sorry that I lost it back there, and that Barbarian said that shit to you. I wanted you to play D&D since you always talked about it. This isn't the way it was supposed to be." I told Fighter he has no reason to apologize, and thanked him for trying to give me the D&D experience I wanted, and thanked him for defending me. To no one's surprise, the game ended with that epic slap. I don't know what happened to DM, Warlock, or Druid. Barbarian was still in the same frat as Fighter, but they didn't hang out anymore. Barbarian left the wrestling team a few weeks after. Fighter told me that Barbarian didn't enjoy the sparring matches anymore. It's been a few years now since my D&D horror story. Fighter and I are still best friends. He has a happy family, which I am a part of since I'm his kid's godfather, and he introduced me to his cousin, who is now my amazing boyfriend. I've sadly never played D&D since.
Well, it's got a tragic ending.
I don't know, man. There's always the opportunity to pick up again. I honestly think that slapping the shit out of the frat guy who then left the wrestling team because he didn't like their sparring matches anymore, and the Fighter and the Rogue still being the best of friends, I think overall it was a good
part's fine. That
a
part's
good
fine.
ending.
We're never playing D&D again. That's the sad
yeah.
part. It's just bad to see that, someone misunderstanding what the game is supposed to be can really ruin it for the rest of their career.
Yeah. Like, that's always the hard part of reading the horror stories is like, yeah, I'm been excited to play D&D for years, never got the chance, and then the first session this happens. That's how you ruin D&D or any game for someone.
I'm so glad, though, that the one dude just got up and like smacked the shit out of him. Like that's the correct response.
Well, of course.
And also like
good on him.
Being like, oh, me sleeping with you would be like, it'd be like a gift to you because you're disabled and you're probably not getting any. Like, fuck you.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's just antisocial behavior writ large. It's got nothing to do with. I mean, it happened to happen at a gaming table, but that's just that guy being just a complete jackass. You know, that regardless of when they're in the game or not. I do think it's interesting that in all of this, we have not at any point mentioned the DM, who was completely AWOL on this.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I mean, like, let's take a moment to discuss the fact that
Barbarian was DM's friend also.
And Barbarian was
just letting him do this.
Exactly. And that when the poster said that character grabbed my character, and of course I couldn't resist because I couldn't pass a strength check against them. The strength check is irrelevant. Like if at the table you say, I don't want you grabbing me, that should be the end of it. And, you know, I mean, and it sounds like they didn't feel empowered to speak up, that they like none of that kind of safety discussion was had before the beginning of the game about, you know, like,
yeah, that was definitely a point where the DM should have looked at the rogue and been like, are you okay with this?
Yeah. Cause somebody grabbing you like that is PvP. You're initiating PvP. You know, as much as if you like try to pull a dagger out and stab it in, you know, another PC's eye or something like that, that kind of, you know, manhandling is you're taking action against another player's character and not the environment. And that's where,
if it requires a check like that, you're in PvP.
Mm-hmm,
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that should start with initiative.
Yeah.
And then that's how
yes.
That's even
more.
Or
I mean, Josie's right. It should start with, you know, the DM checking in to see if everybody's okay with it. That's so.
Yeah. I mean, you know, people are not NPCs. They're real. They have feelings. They have all sorts of things going on, probably more complex than yours. And you got to treat them like they're people sitting on a table with you and not characters in a game about you.
But just, yeah, the opening the door, who's the hot chick?
Immediately, I'd be like oh no.
That's, hi, I'm Mr. Red Flag. Just, you know, that's pretty bad. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously that went down a very bad path. If that's what the character is, and that character ends up being an asshole, that could be kind of cool roleplay. Playing the bombastic asshole, you know?
As long as you keep it in the roleplay and you are not making other people at the table visibly uncomfortable.
And that's what, like, any amount of prefacing that statement couldn't make clear. So it starts off as like, okay, this could go down a bad path. And then it did.
Mm-hmm.
But if,
and then it went down a worse path.
Yes.
And Josie knows a thing or two about causing a disturbance with the murder. And
listen, I didn't know it would kill the singer.
It was just a guy. You threw a dart.
Yeah, I thought it would. Yeah, and I thought it was like a dart, not like a fucking Senbon needle.
What do you?
This is
Josie.
This is a discussion for a different horror story.
Yes.
We're going to have a horror story that's just Greg talking about all the bullshit I put him through as a DM.
Do we need another weekly show of just Josie horror stories?
It's just me and Greg.
We could do a couple, like at least a month's worth for sure.
For my birthday.
Hey, my birthday's in a week. Let's go.
Oh my God. Happy birthday!
By the time you're hearing this, Greg will be, no, you're not 30s yet, are you?
No, not yet. I got one more year.
You still have time, child. Run. Yeah. Any parting thoughts on this guy who got his comeuppance?
I kind of wish that the fighter told the rest of the wrestling team what he did, and then they all just took him out in the back and beat the shit out of him. But that's
there's
just me
a chance
personally.
that might be why he doesn't like sparring anymore.
Yeah,
they might know what's up, and maybe they just got
a little rough with him.
Yeah,
that's canon. Now.
I'm going to choose to believe that that's what happened. We got
because they went, oh no, that's not cool, and we're going to show you how not cool it was.
Mm-hmm.
You like manhandling people? Let's say you like being manhandled.
Yeah.
You know, when it takes actual at the table physical violence in order to get you to realize you've been behaving like a dick, That's the point at which that game is unsalvageable, I think. I
think
can't
that point
imagine
comes way before that.
Yeah, well,
Session
absolutely.
2, let's go.
But for sure, once the story hits the point of, and then my friend beat the shit out of this guy, like that's, that campaign's probably on ice from that point forward.
I would also just like to take the hottest of hot seconds to be like, what a bro the fucking fighter was. Like, that's the kind of friends you want.
That is
like, what the fuck is wrong with
ride
you?
Or die.
That's my best friend. How dare you talk to him like that?
Yeah, as soon as he found out what was actually happening. Yeah, that was, He
put him in his fucking place.
Absolutely appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
OP, keep this guy as close to you as possible. I'm so glad that his cousin is your boyfriend and you're living the life that you've always dreamed of.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, maybe give D&D another shot with a
not
better
a
group
scumbag.
of people. Yeah.
Call us up. We got room at the table.
And if we didn't, we'd make room for you.
Or get a new table. That's all we got for today. Go check us out, Curmudgeonsanddragons.com. That's really all I got. I don't really, there used to be like a whole speech at the end of these shows, but really not so much, especially on these shorter ones. Greg, Josie, Jim, I'm Jason. Thanks for joining me.
Take it easy, fam.
Thank you.
See you guys later.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Please share this with your favorite adventurers. Leave a review on Apple and follow us on social media. All links can be found at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. Practice safe adventuring, my friends.
This has been a JTP Audio podcast. Thanks for listening.